We are back here on the NL Sports Platter, all brought to you by our good friends at Arcavana Daga and Chick-fil-A of Cicero. Make sure you grab those tenders, fries, nuggets for lunch and dinner, and of course, stop by for breakfast. Gift cards available as well. Anthony Castrovince joins the show now to preview the baseball season. MLB.com. Go get all of his work. Go follow him all over the social platforms. Anthony, good to have you back.
Nice to be back, Mike. Thanks for having me, man.
No doubt. You're at the WBC, and we're recording this. Obviously, it's going to air a couple days later, and I'll get to that tournament in a minute just with a couple generic questions. But on the season side of things, the players will all come back after this. Everybody's got eyes on the spring training and the start of the season as well. I mean, is there anything besides the Dodgers to start with this three-peat here?
Oh, man. They are the class of the baseball world, no doubt about it. And have had a relatively seamless camp to date. No drama coming out of there, no major injuries coming out of there. The season will, of course, present its challenges as it always does. But you talk about a team that's built to withstand 162 and be the last team standing at the end. That's them. They're kind of at the point now where they're almost like it's got that NBA vibe to it, right? Where it's load management over the course of the year. And just really getting guys in a position to be at their best come October. Last year they didn't even have a bye in the first round, and they didn't mind that at all. They felt like they had their best possible roster at that time, and that's the way they angle their season at this point. So everyone talks about this roster could have win 115 games and break the record and all this stuff. That's not what they're aiming for. They're aiming for the three-peat, like you said. They're aiming to have their best, particularly in the pitching side, their best setup going into October.
Well, we had them repeat, and we had a repeat champ for the first time since 2000. Now they're going to try to do three-peat champ for the first time also since 2000. That Yankee group did it with Jeter, Torre, and the gang, and Mariano and the rest of them. If I could give you the Dodgers right now in that Yankee dynasty, head-to-head 7-game series, everybody at it. And I know everybody lives prisoner in the moment because everybody thinks Ohtani is not just the greatest baseball player of all time. I've heard people think he's the greatest athlete of all time, too. Why not? Just give him everything at this point. Never mind Michael Jordan. Never mind Wayne Gretzky. Just Shohei and nobody else matters, right? No, I'm kidding. I love Shohei, but you know what I mean there. Who would you take, 7-gamer between the Yankees and the Dodgers? You know who I'm taking.
It's so tough because in some way you need to know what era we're playing in, right? Like the game evolves so much, maybe even more than we give it credit for. And it's just interesting. They're both built for their time, right? I mean, the Yankees played in a very power-packed era, and you could really maximize the value of, a couple studs atop your rotation and a great closer like Mariano Rivera. Whereas now the game is, more dynamic in some ways with, the matchups and starters not going as deep into games. And again, the way teams are just managed over the course of the season. So the Dodgers are built perfectly for this moment in time. The Yankees were built perfect for their moment in time. So it's a tough one to answer. But yeah, because the Dodgers do have the greatest athlete of all time and Michael Jordan struck out a lot, I'll take the Dodgers.
Fair. I like well played. Yeah, Ohtani, Betts, Freeman, Jeter, Mo, Torre, Dave Roberts. I mean, it would have to be like they'd have to play, and then Dave Roberts would have to go on the base pass. I don't even want to go to.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah. Forget about that. If I had to give you kind of like find lightning in a bottle and strike team that might be there in the AL and one in the NL, maybe teams that if it goes right and it strikes and maybe people aren't paying attention to them, who could that be? By the way, Baltimore could be back in that group with Pete Alonso. Boy, that signing was great in the offseason. It just hit my mind.
Yeah, they absolutely could. I don't think they're sneaking up on anybody because of, what we kind of thought of that team's cornerstones, in the last few years. And then adding a big bat like Pete Alonso obviously gets a lot of attention. When people ask me questions like this, my mind just generally gravitates towards the central divisions just because that's the nature of the game where, you have more shakeups in those markets. And, for me, it's maybe the Royals in the American League Central where, they moved their fences in and they got some power in that lineup potentially if Jack Caglione is what they expect him to be. And they have other, really interesting players coming up in their system. Vinny Pasquantino, Bobby Witt Jr. is one of the maybe 3 best players in the world right now. And if Cole Reagans is healthy, I like the Royals' chances a lot. In the National League, how about the Pittsburgh Pirates? I mean, that's a division that could be really set up for a shakeup where, the Cubs had an interesting winter, but I don't know that they're a juggernaut by any means. The Brewers traded their best pitcher and a couple of really good players from their lineup over the course of the winter, just as a function of the way they do business. The Reds have a significant injury with Hunter Green. So, yeah, I could see the Pirates actually making a surge in the standings, as crazy as that sounds. They did add a lot of thump to their lineup over the offseason. Pretty iffy defensively, but hey, man, they got Paul Skeens, they got Bubba Chandler, Braxton Ashcraft. They got some young arms, coming behind Skeens that they're going to be really interesting.
Yeah, and see, that's just it. If you're going to throw at me that we're going on strike soon and you got to put a cap on everybody, well, then you got to make these small market owners spend. You're getting revenue sharing and the owners get plenty of money. There's still TV. There's still billions in the business. They're getting the rev share. I'm not saying you can put together $250 million and that means that you have Yankee, Dodger, Met money. I'm not saying that. But if you're smart, you're baseball people, you've got some players, you build it the right way, you can be competitive, you can be sustainable. And unlike the NFL and the NCAA tournament, hello, it's not a 1 game off. You get into a 7-game series and you have Paul Skeens going 3 times in a 7. Anthony, come on, anything can happen. We saw Arizona go not too long ago, which brings me to, are we in trouble? Are we done after this year? Are we going on strike with these bozos?
I doubt we're done after this year. There is obviously, there's a value to a cap system, but only, you can't have a cap without a floor. And that kind of speaks to your point about raising the floor for these teams that haven't spent as much. And, we see it every year in the postseason. Like baseball it'll surprise you in the postseason. It'll surprise you even more in the regular season when just, it's so long and injuries catch up with teams and the game has gotten definitively younger. And so the teams that draft and develop well are just, they're way ahead of the curve. However, you get to October, and particularly in a 7-game series, I mean, we see what happens. Like depth stands out, and depth can be built. I don't think you can build a champion, through free agency. You still have to have that internal structure, but you can acquire depth. You can acquire depth that other teams just can't contend with, and have more options in your bullpen, more options on your bench. And you really see that, and that's why ultimately a small market team has not won, since the Kansas City Royals in 2015 has not won at all. And small market success stories, even in the wild card era where there's more vagaries and all that are still few and far between when it comes to winning the World Series. So yeah, it's going to be a fascinating winter. I don't think, there's a lot in the air with TV contracts, national TV contracts, local TV contracts have been impacted in a big way by the shakeups in that industry. So just a lot of competing factors.
What's it like covering a World Baseball Classic? And inside that, Ohtani is an even bigger star because when he wears the Japan jersey, he's a global icon here. He loves it. He said he wants to win that as much, if not more, than a World Series. What's it like? These superstar teams, all world players, Judge, Harper on the same team, Ohtani, Japan, the Dominican, the crowds, the Latino baseball fans. It's got to be bananas. And Ohtani leads the group, right?
It's so different. And you got to remind yourself, man, it's mid-March. Like you kind of lose sight of that sometimes because you get in the moment and it does take on a playoff atmosphere. Now there's elements to the tournament that are just unavoidably imperfect. I mean, there's no great time to have this tournament. You'd have to shut down the middle of the season to do it, when players are at their peak performance-wise, or you'd have to do it after the World Series, and that's suboptimal because guys are shut down for the year and then ramp back up, and that's not good from a health perspective. So spring training is probably the only way to do it, but with that comes these restrictions on pitchers and how you can use them, and even the lineup guys, you want to give them, a break here and there because they got to go back to their clubs within a matter of days. So you don't necessarily get, the optimized management day to day. But what you do get is a great environment with, passionate fans and the players take on this different tone to, how they I think the greatest example is Tarek Skubal, where, for him to even agree to participate with Team USA in his situation with so much at stake in this final year before free agency says a lot about, the pull of playing for Team USA. But then he actually did it. And actually doing it took on a different gravitas with him in his brain, to the point where he was regretting, only signing up to pitch, one outing against Great Britain that was on his Grapefruit League schedule. So I think that was a real eye opener. I think we've had a lot of those in the last couple editions of this tournament, where the things that used to be like cast aside, like, well, that'll never happen. A guy, a big name, big money guy going into his free agent year, coming off 2 Cy Youngs, is going to pitch in the World Baseball Classic. That's not going to happen. Well, now it happens, and the guy even wants to keep going because he got in the moment and saw, how it feels and how big it is. So that was a really testament to how far this tournament has come in the last 20 years.
Yeah, that's a great point. In the last minute I have or so with you, the Carlos Beltran and Andrew Jones tandem heading into Cooperstown, do you think that they're both Hall of Famers? When you see the name, hear the name, remember the careers, are they in? Are they deserving Hall of Famers?
I am generally a big Hall guy as it is, just because I do feel like, we can all, stand on our pedestals and say, the Willie Mays type Hall of Fame, where it's only the inner circle greats should be in there.
Sorry.
But at the end, but at the end of the day,
that, by the way, in advance, sorry.
it's already been watered down, though. You look at the cast of characters in there. I mean, there's some watering down that has already transpired. And when you start comparing, to me, I'm all about defining eras. And were you one of the greats of your era? I do think that Andrew Jones was, definitely an iffy case, because it is so defense oriented, and the offense is entirely, in the first half of his career, and then really falls off a cliff from there. So, if you want to argue with me about Andrew Jones, yeah, I'll hear that. To me, Carlos Beltran is like a slam dunk Hall of Famer. I get that, he was a part of the Astros sign stealing scandal in the final season of his playing career, but I mean, that guy's in a very select group when it comes to the power speed dynamic and what he brought to the game. I think he's like a true blue Hall of Famer.
Yeah, switch hitter, average, power. I mean, the whole thing, the glove, the duration. Oh, by the way, October. Holy cow.
Yeah, great October numbers. Yeah.
Resume, no doubt about it. Well, covering the World Baseball Classic, covering Major League Baseball, national side, insider, writer, you name it, for MLB.com. Go get his work all over the place and read his articles. I've had him on for years. I met you in Cooperstown, I think,
That's right.
ago, and I've been hounding you ever since. Saw you at the All-Star game in Cleveland, and in multiple inductions. It's just amazing to have you. It's great to see you on camera as well. Anthony Castrovince, you do amazing work. I love your stuff, and we'll catch up as the season goes along, my friend. Really appreciate this. Take care.
Thanks so much, Mike. Good to see you, man.